Welcome to I Said What I Said. I'm Brad Wakai. That's Tyson Gentri. NFC West time, baby. We're just going to keep rolling through these divisions. We've done the AFC East, NFC East. Now it's time for the NFC West. New faces here, Tyson. It should be interesting here.
Yeah, this is a fun division.
Los Angeles Rams. Let's get this thing started. As I pull it up here, they didn't have a first-round pick, right? It's FM picks. That's the motto here in LA for this franchise.
Well, they traded out, didn't they?
That's true. That is true. But again, they're just like, screw it.
F them.
Second-round pick. Who do they want? They take a tight end, Terrence Ferguson from Oregon. Third-round pick. These are your day two picks. Josiah Stewart, the edge rusher from Michigan. Interesting here. So kind of coin flips the rest of the way, right? That's how we view it. Day three picks. Jarquez Hunter, running back from Auburn. Your two fifth-round picks, defensive tackle from Ohio State, linebacker from Ole Miss, and then your seventh-round pick, you take a wide receiver. You know, like it normal here with the draft stuff for the Rams, not a whole lot. I think the Ferguson draft is interesting because we know how much Sean McVay loves using tight ends. I loved Terrence Ferguson based on his measurables. I thought he was productive at Oregon. This screams like it could work here.
Well, dude, there's just sometimes it's like when a guy gets picked by a team. You texted me as soon as this happened. You're like, he's going to look so sick in the Rams uniforms. We don't need to see anything else. This guy's going to look like a stud. He's going to be a stud. And this was a home run. If we know anything about Les Snead and the Los Angeles Rams, it's like Chris Paul from Mississippi. Welcome to the All-Pro team, brother. Like they hit a home run somewhere in this fourth, fifth round. I thought the Hunter pick was he'll be fine in the room, but there was a little smoke. Like Daniel Jeremiah mocked Amari and Hampton to them at 26. And so it was like, oh, maybe the Rams are in the market for a running back. This guy's not better than Kyren Williams or Blake Corum, so he's just going to backfill there. And then, it's to the point with the Rams where it's like, well, it's going to work.
I thought it was interesting to take Josiah Stewart in the third round when you had Braden Fisk and you took Jared Verse and everything looked like it was hunky-dory on the edge rushing front. What does this suggest? Do they want to build more on edge rushing, Tyson? I'm not sure. I mean, what'd you make of that?
Well, I think Stewart was hurt a little bit in this last couple months of lead up. That's all about look at the combine numbers and how athletic and his RAS score and all this other stuff. This guy's good at football. And I think the Rams were just like, hey, we need more guys that are good at football. Look, they were a bunch of Saquon Barkley yards away from potentially representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. This isn't a team that's dead.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That is a good point. Let's get into the Seattle Seahawks. 𝐦𝐨𝐫𝐞, your boy, their first-round pick. We went over this, FCS guy from North Dakota State. Then they draft Nick Emmanwori, our guy, the safety. We think this can be crazy with Mike McDonald. They had another second-round pick, which they spent on tight end Elijah Arroyo from Miami. And then how about Jalen Milroe, quarterback from Alabama, getting taken in the third round? That was a head-turner. Then the rest of the way, Tyson, they got busy because they had 3 fifth-round picks. They take a defensive tackle from Notre Dame, wideout from Colorado State. They take a tight end from Alabama. 1 sixth-round pick to take their offensive tackle, and 3 seventh-round picks, one of them being Damian Martinez, the big running back from Miami. Yeah. They take another offensive tackle. And then my guy, Ricky White from UNLV, wide receiver. Take a little flyer on him, see if he can hit. He's a great special teams player. I mean, this draft, you look at the names here for the Seahawks, they made some head-turning ones.
Yeah, I think Emmanwori can fit, in the safety role, or maybe he plays nickel. We'll find out. But, hey, you get to go play for Mike McDonald. That's pretty tantalizing for the most athletic guy we've seen walk into the NFL Combine in like 30 years or whatever it was. The Milroe thing is crazy. Like, if it works, it's a home run. But if you genuinely in your heart believe it works, I have beachfront property to sell you, somewhere in the Midwest. It's not going to work, dude. I think Torrey Horton might be like the fastest dude I've ever seen play football. When he was on at Colorado State, it was like, this guy is crazy. And so between him and Ricky White, we're walking like this Seattle wide receiver room. All of a sudden it's looking a little barren. And there's going to be, whether that's Bobo or whoever steps up for Seattle, I think one of these two wideouts has a chance to make an impact.
They traded Sam Howell, I believe, on day 2 as well. So they opened up a little bit of room here to the Vikings, right? So it's Sam Darnold's probably going to be their starter. I forget who. There's a lot of guys there. I'm kind of drawing a blank. I think Jalen Milroe is going to be on this roster, Tyson.
No doubt.
you take him with the third round, they see a vision for him, which is intriguing because Ryan Grubb went to Alabama, who was the OC last year. I'm curious what that vision is. Are they going to run more spread concepts? Is it going to be like Lamar Jackson? Are they going to do gadgety stuff with him early on? That, to me, is a fascinating storyline heading into the summer and then spring in the fall camp.
Yeah, they should have taken a note out of a division rivals book, brother.
Let's get to the Arizona Cardinals and our old boy Jonathan Gannon, the head coach. Man, did he have a draft or what? Because you take Walter Nolan with the first round pick at 16 overall. This is a guy that we were kind of slobbering over a little bit, thinking what he could look like with the Eagles. Second round, they get Will Johnson to fall to him. Everybody's kind of wondering where Will Johnson's going to go. There's questions about Will Johnson, which I'm sure we'll touch on. But to close out their day 2 draft, they select Jordan Birch, edge rusher from Oregon. Rest of the way, let's go with some big schools here, right? 4th round pick, go Cody Simon, linebacker from Ohio State. How about the 5th round pick? Why don't we get Denzel Burke, former highly touted guy coming out of high school, cornerback from Ohio State. Then 6th round pick, get an offensive guard from Texas. Why not? Then let's take a flyer on a safety from Nevada, see what happens here in the 7th round. Notable names, notable schools here for the Cardinals.
Yeah, we talked about the Nolan thing. Like, has a chance to just. Why wasn't this guy the first guy off the board or the third? Like, why did Abdul Carter go over Walter Nolan? Is a potential conversation in a different timeline. I don't know if we're going to have that one here, but he could be a stud. Will Johnson, we talked about a bunch on our day 1 recap. I think he's going to be able to play. And that's the beautiful part about the Arizona Cardinals draft, Brad, is they had a bunch of roster spots that could be filled by this guy. You've seen probably as much Cody Simon as somebody who isn't like a diehard Ohio State fan. Is this dude not always around the football? Like, does he just not live where the ball is? This was I thought the Cardinals crushed.
Yeah, I mean, to my chagrin, he was around the football because I think Penn State might have been able to win a couple of those games. He wasn't. I agree. I mean, listen, everybody's kind of talking about the Eagles thing, like, oh, well, yeah, you just get guys from Georgia and Alabama and things like that. Or, sorry, yeah, Georgia, Alabama, things like that. Yeah, that's especially in this modern age, Tyson. These blue chippers are going to these high-profile schools. Like, yeah, Alabama won a championship. Ohio State won a championship. Georgia won a championship. You know why? They have great players. Probably should draft them.
It seems to work.
San Francisco 49ers are closing out. And Tyson, I still can't get over the fact that this team – in the Super Bowl year ago was selected 11th in this draft. They finished last in their division. Shocking to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody died.
That's true. So you're going to try to avoid that. And they had draft capital. And they took Michael Williams, number 11 overall. We touched on that. We think it's a hit. What about the rest of their draft? Because they got busy. 2nd round pick, they took a defensive tackle, Alfred Collins from Texas. 2 3rd round picks. They go linebacker Nick Martin from Oklahoma State. The draft Upton Stout, cornerback from Western Kentucky. Okay, let's go day 3. We're getting busy here. John Lynch, start sending in these babies. Defensive tackle CJ West from Indiana. Wideout Jordan Watkins from Ole Miss. You go running back Jordan James from Oregon, which I thought was interesting. Then the rest of the way, you go safety from Kansas State. You take Curtis Rourke from Indiana, the quarterback. The offensive guard from Iowa. And then our boy Junior Bergen, wideout from Billings, Montana, from the University of Montana Grizzlies, to round out their draft. It was sweet seeing him get his name called. Kind of cool moment for everybody in the state of Montana. Homeborn guy from the state. So that was pretty sweet to see his name hop up on the ticker.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the show of the draft. The 49ers just got the best return man in the draft in the 7th round. You don't even have to you don't have to pay Brock Purdy any money if Junior Bergen returns all the kicks and punts for touchdowns. This was thinking ahead. Curtis Rourke, another just like the Niners were pulling on my heartstrings this whole time. It was like, oh, they got Nick Martin. They got Michael Williams, I think, has been a little maligned right now. And it's like, he's the best player on the Georgia defense that was really good for 3 years. Like, I think that he's going to be just fine, and they need the bodies. Alfred Collins, another huge human being. We keep talking about just giant people. This draft was full of them. But, Brad, Jordan James was the interesting one to me as far as, like, what we're going to be watching for as, we're not scouts. We're not cutting on, all 22 special teams or whatever, but this is a little bit more barren of a running back room than we're used to seeing from Kyle Shanahan. I think James has a chance to be the next guy. There's going to be Christian McCaffrey, and we hope he stays healthy and has 1,000,000 yards. But if he can't go, 2 years ago, if you told me Isaac Guerrero from Louisville is better than Jordan James from Oregon, I would have said you're crazy.
This to me, Jordan James, he could be a real guy. for San Francisco. I mean, he's fast. He runs that zone scheme. He's familiar with that. He gets out in space, which, Kyle Shanahan is great at getting his running backs to do, one cut go type of stuff. I'm just thinking about it right now. Jordan James, I think, is going to be a player for the 49ers. This might be one of the best day 3 picks, I think, out there if you just talk a fit and like who can actually make an impact.
It's crazy, too, because it was their second best one.
Right.
Shout out Junior.
Shout out Junior Burton. Also, the interesting, and this is our last team, so I want to close on this. You think Curtis Rourke will enter into the CFL draft? Is that allowed? Like, if he's a number 1 pick, what do you think he does?
I think the way it works is once like they sign their contract or whatever with the NFL team, then if you get cut, you can go to the CFL and they get first negotiating rights through whatever their draft thing is. Because I think Tommy Mellott was the first overall pick in the CFL draft this year, or one of them.
I didn't even know that happened.
He got, or whatever the exclusive rights thing is, but I think the Argonauts just did. They signed the exclusive rights thing for Shedeur Sanders, so if he gets cut from the Browns, they get the right of first negotiation. None of it makes a ton of sense to us. We're just stupid Americans right down here below you. But if there's any Canadian listeners or viewers, please enlighten us.
Yeah, please do. I mean, because this is gonna be released after the draft. So I'm looking here now. It's taking place on April 29th. I mean, there's a ton of stuff on this stuff. So that is interesting.
First,
I believe you're right, though. I don't know what's going on here, but anyway, that's another thing for a different day. But I thought that was fascinating because he is a Canadian, Curtis Rourke. So I didn't know if maybe you'd want to go back home if he's selected higher. What would you do? Would you rather be a 7th round pick or go to the CFL if you're able to do both? Logically throwing it out there, being a first overall pick for one of those teams.
Well, I think if you're Curtis Rourke, like you try to make your bones in the NFL, and then if that doesn't work, then you go sign in the Canadian Football League. And shout out to a Montana guy, Dave Dickinson. Played with the Chargers. That didn't, his career was ended in the NFL. He won a bunch of Grey Cups in Canada. He's a coaching legend over there, and they probably got statues of him.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, right, because you can always go back to Canada, especially because you're from there. Like I don't know. If he wants to go back, but he is a Canadian. So yeah, that was something I was thinking about the other day. Like, Curtis Rourke, what would he want to do? But anyway, that's enough nonsense from us here. Let's get out of here. Like, subscribe, and share the show so you don't miss a single thing on the way out. You know the drill. Smash that like button. We got AFC West coming up next. We continue our draft analysis coming out of the NFL draft. We'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.